And it is 4:03, so I'm going to kick things off right now. So thanks for those who have joined us so far. We're going to see people keep on coming in. I'm just going to give a quick intro to who we are and what we're doing here today. So welcome to Sabina's presentation. I've given it an informal title of how does a healthy work-life balance benefit both you and your clients. Sabina will give a more formal introduction to it shortly. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do and why I'm your host today and doing this intro. So my name's Ella. I'm one of the community managers for 9am, which is a freelance operating system. So it is a one-stop shop for your freelancing needs. You can have a profile on there. There is a sales form so that potential clients can contact you. You can set the minimum information that you want them to submit so that you get a sense of what they're looking for and whether they're a good fit for you before you go into, that like back and forth email conversation to ascertain those things. And we really built 9am as a platform to serve the needs of a community that we already ran. So we are the people behind Code Control, which is a freelance matching service for tech freelancers. And we spoke to a lot of our community members in Code Control who are all freelancers with several years of experience, and we kept hearing the same things. And we kept hearing that there were certain tools that we would really find useful that were just not on the market or not freely and openly available for everybody to use. So we really started building this for everybody. And as freelancers ourselves, we decided to add some more features that we thought would be really neat. And so this is where we are today, is we're building a freelance platform that will ideally change the way that we freelance. It will take away a lot of the frustrations of dealing with payments and processing of legal and contract documentation, as well as streamlining that process of acquiring clients and managing your accounts. As freelancers, we're constantly adding to this and constantly deciding that there's new ways that we like to develop the product. As freelancers that I'm speaking to right now, you will have your own opinions about what kind of tools you need and what kind of resources you need as a freelancer to improve your experience. And so we really would want to build this together with you. We'd really like to hear from you. If there's anything that you'd like to see that's not already on there, anything that you really feel is missing in your freelance experience that would really help you in streamlining your business, maybe even balancing your own work life. And we're here for you. So you can join us for free. It is free for freelancers forever at 9am.works. And if you have any questions, any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. So that is all from me. I'm going to hand you over to Sabina. And so Sabina is going to speak to you for about half an hour. And at the end of this half an hour, we will take questions. If you have any questions, you can open that Q&A tab below. You can drop them in the chat. But just to confirm that Sabina's going to answer those questions at the end. So if your question doesn't get answered in the course of the presentation, hang tight and we will get to you. And so on that note, I am going to hand you over to Sabina, who is going to take over from here. Let's spotlight Sabina. And if you'd like to share your screen.
Okay.
The mic is yours.
Great. Can you see it? Okay, good. So thank you so much for coming to my webinar this morning. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of information out there about how to have a healthy work-life balance, but there's not a lot of information. In fact, there's basically none about how freelancers specifically can have a healthy work-life balance. So this is what inspired me to have this topic on this webinar, because I've been freelancing my entire adult life, which by now is decades. So I feel like I've kind of through trial and error been able to learn how to handle work and life together pretty well. So I want to share that with you. It's really unfortunate that there's not a lot of information out there about freelancers and work-life balance, because work-life balance is one of the most important concerns that freelancers have. Freelancer Map did a survey this year, which found that 36% of freelancers say that their biggest challenge in freelancing is work-life balance. And this was topped only by the challenge of project acquisitions. So work-life balance is really top of mind for a lot of freelancers all over the world. The work situation of freelancers, as you know, because we work for ourselves, is utterly different from that of employees who work for someone else. Freelancing gives you not only the opportunity to create a healthy work-life balance, but because we work for ourselves and we're independent and most of us work at home, it gives us like the optimal opportunity to create just the absolute maximum ideal work-life balance you can possibly have. So, you know, when you're an employee working for someone else, you always have to put like your company's needs and your boss's needs, and sometimes, you know, like your coworkers' needs above your own. But as a freelancer, because you're independent, you can put yourself first. So, and a lot of people say that putting yourself first is selfish, but I don't think it's selfish at all. We are who we are, and we have to take care of ourselves. Putting yourself first is not selfish, it's self-care. So now, just as human beings, most of us try to have balance in our lives anyway. It's just a natural thing. You know, you try to be happy and have a good life. But there's a big difference between just naturally trying to have a good life and balance everything out, and intentionally, purposefully, mindfully, really trying to structure everything so that you take the best possible care of yourself that you can in your work, your clients, your life, your family, everything. So, so how do I know anything about work-life balance? Like I said a couple of minutes ago, I've been freelancing my entire life, which by now is decades. And even since the very beginning, I always was very like aware and cognizant of and focused on the fact that I was a freelancer. You know, I wasn't an employee working at a company. I was my own boss. And I just always tried to, you know, put that first, you know, and keep it foremost in my mind. I noticed other freelancers didn't really do that, you know, but I just thought that was so important. And I always tried to handle everything by keeping like the quality of my life at the top of my mind and focusing on that. And of course, at the beginning, when you're first starting out, especially, you have to earn money. And so you can get carried away with your work, and, you know, and it's just hard to like, you've got your clients and everyone telling you, I need this, I need this, I need this. And so, you know, at the very beginning, it can be hard to kind of balance things. You get carried away with your work. But over time, I kind of learned how to fit myself in there and like, you know, arrange things that so in a way they would work out best for me. And during the times in my life where I've kind of lost balance, for whatever reason, you know, started working too hard or whatever, and getting carried away and kind of losing myself, I always ended up paying the price for that. So I was always fortunately able to find my way back and find better balance again. So I wasn't always good at this, but I think over time I've learned. So now I want to share what I've learned with you. So I think one of the most important things to remember as a freelancer is we don't work for our clients. We work for ourselves doing work for our clients. There's a big difference. As such, as a freelancer, you shouldn't fit in your life around your work. You should fit in your work around your life. So in this webinar, I'll share with you what I've learned, as well as some science-based methods on how you can do things to help yourself with your work and your life. So what is work-life balance anyway? My own definition is work-life balance is the amount of time you spend working versus the amount of time you spend doing everything else. And I would take this even further to say that the work part of it is not just, you know, the work you do to earn money, but as freelancers, we have all kinds of associated tasks, you know, like invoicing, the payment collection, the looking for work, the improving our skills, and all of that. In addition to that, you could say that work is also the tasks that you have in your life, the running errands, the doing your taxes, and just the unfun things. So work-life balance would be like the balance between all the things that you have to do versus all of the things you really want to do. Yeah. People who have bad work-life balance, their lives might look something like this. Work, 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 work. Like 70% of your life would be work, and then the rest of it you just sleep. So you're kind of just barely functioning. You know, you just work all the time, you get carried away with it, and then you have to sleep. You don't have a choice. So then you spend some time sleeping, you get up and you work again. And a good work-life balance looks more like incorporating all kinds of things into your life, as many different facets of your life as you want to have. Of course, work. Oh, by the way, don't pay attention to the actual percentages in this graph. I had to put those in there because that was just the way it was set up. So, you know, you have work, of course, sleep, then there's me time, family time, and all kinds of other time. So, you know, just for a better balance in your life. And you should try to achieve balance every day, I've learned, because like if you get carried too far away with your work for a few days, that's just perfectly fine. Or if you have time off and kind of goof off for a few days, that's perfectly fine too. But if it goes on and on and on, then you can kind of get out of the groove of where you should be, and it can be hard to find your way back. So it's important to try to incorporate some type of balance in your daily life. Now, there is an interesting concept called Eudaimonia. This is a concept proposed by Aristotle in the 4th century BC. And essentially, Eudaimonia means like happiness or living life optimally or flourishing. And this is very similar, this concept, to work-life balance, to a good, healthy work-life balance. Because if you have a good and healthy work-life balance, you will be able to live optimally, to be happy, and to flourish in your life. So this Aristotelian, if I pronounce that correctly, concept is very similar to good, healthy work-life balance, which I thought was really interesting. So taking eudaimonia into consideration, a good work-life balance is not just getting all of our work done as quickly as possible so we can then relax and do what we want, nor is it like 50% work and 50% everything else. It's the balance that's right for you so that you can function optimally and think clearly and just be the best version of yourself. So it's a very personal thing. What works for one person, of course, doesn't work for another person necessarily. So if I told you like my daily work-life balance, you might think that's awful. Like I couldn't live like that. So we all have to find our own way and find the balance that suits us best. So now, why is a healthy work-life balance so important? Well, I will show you what can happen if you have a poor work-life balance. With an unhealthy work-life balance, all kinds of negative things can happen to you, and they also can kind of cascade, and you can end up just like, you know, really getting out of control. With an unhealthy work-life balance, you can end up feeling stress and anxiety. You can feel fatigued and not have enough energy for your work or your life. This can result in not being able to think very clearly, and that will result in a decline in the quality of your work for sure, if you can't think clearly. It can lead to having problems with your family, problems with your client relationships, problems with social interactions. You can have a decline in your mental health, and that can lead to a decline in physical health. And then you can end up losing clients. You may lose your friends. Hopefully you won't lose your family. You might end up even, you know, turning to substances like alcohol or whatever, and that could lead to loss of enjoyment of life. So this, if you have an unhealthy balance, it can cause all kinds of problems. And by the way, I see people saying things in the chat, and I appreciate that. I'm going to like answer all questions at the end, if so, so that I will get to everything and everyone though. So thank you. So it's very important to keep ourselves in balance, especially nowadays. The world is so unbalanced and chaotic and troubled, like I'm sure none of us have ever seen before in our lives. So any little bit you can do to keep like yourself and your own world sort of, in balanced and in control and centered and happy, that will go a long way towards just being able to handle everything and anything that might happen in your world, in the world. We have to make a real effort not to let ourselves get overwhelmed with the negativity and the problems, just like, focus on doing the best you can. And that can be a really powerful thing to just, like take everything that I'm going to say into consideration, and in order to just have the balance that you need to have. So how can a good work-life balance benefit you? With a good work-life balance, you will be happier. As a result, your family, the people surrounding you will be happier because you're happier. Your work will end up improving. You'll be able to enjoy your life more. And you can potentially even earn more money because you'll be functioning better. So this will enable you to work better. So a good work-life balance can result in earning more money for sure. Now, good work-life balance will also benefit your freelance clients. How? The quality of your work will be better. Your thinking will be clearer again. You'll have a better attitude. You'll be able to turn in the work that you do in a more timely way. It'll be less likely that you'll be running late or running into problems. You'll be able to be more productive because you will have more energy. And you'll also be able to communicate better with your clients because, if you're not thinking clearly, if you're tired, if you just got, other things going on that you're just not handling that well, communicating with your clients could, that the communications could kind of not be as good as if everything is going well. So this is how a good work-life balance for you can benefit your freelance clients. So the big question is, how can you achieve a healthy work-life balance? Now, the answer is more complicated because, again, we're all different people, different personalities, different characters, different life situations, doing different types of freelance work. So we're totally different people. And what is a good work-life balance for one person is not a good work-life balance for someone else. So what can you do in your freelance life to give yourself the proper balance? So here's some suggestions that I have. Number one, most importantly, do the type of work that you really enjoy. I know some freelancers like myself do different types of work and kind of pull together, an income from different things. Also, some freelancers know how to do one type of work, but different aspects of it, like different kinds of writing, or maybe you do coding, but you can also do WordPress work, and if you love all of those kinds of work, that's really wonderful. But if one of them you don't like so much, but it's really the lucrative one, the one where you can find the most jobs, the one where you can earn the most money, the one where you have the most connections, so everything is just easier to do, but you don't really enjoy it, that's really not an optimal work-life balance. In an optimal work balance, you are really loving every minute of your work. So try to focus on doing the type of work that you enjoy the most, even if it means having to look harder for work, or maybe, earning a bit less money. If you can possibly swing that, try to love the type of work that you do. Find a type of work that you do that you really enjoy. That's so important. Also, creating a good workspace is really important. Someplace that's organized and clean, hopefully quiet, and where you can really focus. A space that when you walk into it, it's like, this is where I work. Hopefully you can have a dedicated room for a home office. If not, it's not even necessary. Set up a space, at a table, a kitchen table, or somewhere where when you enter that space with your computer, it's like, this is where you work. Also setting manageable goals is important, rather than having just like sweeping, overwhelming goals all the time where you just feel like you're not getting anything done. If you like break everything down into smaller, manageable goals that you can achieve like every day or every hour or every week, it will help you feel better about the fact that you're actually getting things done. Taking regular breaks is super important. Sitting is the new smoking. You know, you need to get up like every hour or so, and not just for your body, but it clears your mind, you know, especially like I find if I'm working on something and I've reached a point where I just can't figure it out, or I just don't know what to do next, you know, I don't know what to write next or say next. If I get up for even like a couple minutes, when I come back to my computer, it's like, oh, of course, you know, the answer will come to me. So taking a break is super, super helpful. Some people listen to music while they work. That's especially like if you live in a place that is kind of a noisy environment. If you listen to music, you know, it can kind of help you concentrate more. Also having a support system is very important in order to have good balance when you're a freelancer. You won't, you know, have any colleagues that you're working with in an office. You're working by yourself. If you have other freelancers you can connect with and stay in contact with, or your family or some friends, to just have people there for you and not be like completely isolated and working alone with yourself. So there are additional ways that you can help yourself health balance as a freelancer too, just in general. Confidence goes a long way in how you feel about yourself every minute of every day. It can be hard to develop confidence, but surround yourself with positive people who say good and supportive things to yourself, and just be aware of the things that you do that are good, and the things that you do well, and this can help you to be more confident. Having a good attitude is super important, not only for your work, but in your life. Again, like being positive and thinking positive things, focusing on the positive rather than the negative can help. Being professional as possible with your clients. Sometimes your clients aren't all that professional, but if you as a freelancer just act very kind of, you know, detached if you need to, and as professional as possible at all times, that goes a long way. Know what you're good at. You may have, you know, a variety of different skills. You may have just one skill, but if you know that you're really good at that, and if you have a good sort of idea of how good at that are you, how good of a writer are you, how good of a coder are you, if you can like measure yourself, not compare yourself to other people, but if you have a really good, accurate sense of where you are as a freelancer, that can be better than like taking work that probably may not pay you enough because you can actually do better than that. And also like not stretching yourself too much to do a type of work that you really couldn't do that well yet because you haven't reached that point yet. You know what you're good at and know how good you are at it. Also know your worth. Know how much freelancers charge for the type of work you do and charge that. You know, don't undercut and don't charge too much, or if you can charge too much and your client will pay it, that's wonderful. But know what your type of work and what your level of skill is worth. And also resiliency as a freelancer is very important. You might get, hopefully any client you have loves everything that you do. And if they don't, maybe hopefully they just offer you constructive criticism. But if anybody says anything that is like, you know, upsetting to you about your work, or maybe isn't constructive criticism, just don't let it upset you or crush you. Just kind of rise above that and say, well, you know, that's their opinion, and now they've given me something that I can take and move forward and do even better. So let's see. So what does a good relationship with your freelance clients look like? So if you're going to have a good work relationship with your freelance clients, because the better relationship you have, the better, you know, everything is going to go in your work and your life. Communication is super important with your clients. You need to be able to communicate clearly with them and read carefully every email they write you, listen to what they say and what they want and what they need. Be sure and clarify exactly what they want. And of course, you'll probably have a contract that you will present them or they'll present you. So everything will be clarified in the contract. So you'll make sure you're doing the type of work that they want and nothing less and nothing more. Be honest with yourself and them about what you can do and the amount of time you can do it in. Always do your best work, and that should go without saying. Even if you feel you're not getting paid quite enough for a certain type of work, do your best work anyway, and then you can charge more next time. Or your work is always out there for people to discuss, and in some cases for people to see. Again, like if you're a writer like I am, your work is out there for people to see. So always do your best work. Be there for your clients, but at the same time, set boundaries. I've actually hired several freelancers over the years. And I have to say, my number one pet peeve is when freelancers just kind of don't answer an email I sent, or I mean, I don't like being ghosted. No one does. So always be there for your clients. And it doesn't mean that you need to be there in the middle of the night or at night when you're relaxing. Set boundaries so that they will know during what hours you're not going to be available. Or if you're going away for a few days, let them know I'm going away for a few days and I won't be responding to any emails. So they can be very clear on exactly when they can expect to hear back from you. Also, give your all and receive what you're worth in return. Again, do your best work, give it all you've got, and then don't just charge any amount of money, charge what you're worth. Because freelancing is a two-way street of giving and receiving. You give your services, you give your talents, you give your mind, your intelligence, and then you receive what you're worth in return for that. So now, one way of giving yourself actually a really healthy work-life balance is to work less if you possibly can. Because if you find yourself, especially as a freelancer who's just starting out, you're working too hard, you need to make money, and then you kind of get carried away with it and you find yourself working all the time, it may be time for you to start working less so you can focus more on your life rather than just your work. So how can you work less as a freelancer and focus more on life? You can, fortunately, as a freelancer, raise your rates, which is not something you can do when you're working at a company. Especially we have, inflation now, so it's perfectly reasonable, I think, if you want to raise your rates. You can always look for more lucrative work, whether it be on a different freelancing platform or contacting different potential clients and letting them know you're available for work, or even doing a different type of freelancing job that you know how to do that may pay more. Becoming more organized and efficient is also a really good way to work less, because the more organized you are and the more efficient you are, the faster you can get things done and the less time you spend like looking for things or struggling with things. Becoming more productive is also a good way to work less. And I have a scientifically proven way to be more productive that I'll talk about in a moment. Developing better focus is also another way to end up working less, because if you can focus more on your work, again, you'll get it done more quickly. And I also have a science-backed way that helps you focus better, which I'll talk about also in a minute. Minimizing interruptions and distractions is a very important way to work less, because if you're constantly looking out the window or someone's coming, up to talk to you, or you're checking your phone or something, that can be hard to get your mind back on your work. Also, if you can, as a freelancer, outsource one or more of the tasks that you have to do, like invoicing or payment collection. If you can afford to do that, that will help you, give that work to someone else, and then you can be doing, something rather than working during the time that someone else is taking care of that task for you. So, all right. Now, so how can you be more productive? Well, there's a behavioral psychologist named Susan Weinschenk. Psychology Today wrote an article she wrote an article for Psychology Today with some of her science-backed tips for how to be more productive. Work with your own rhythms, like your own circadian rhythms. We all have our own sleep-wake cycles and times of the day that are best for us. And if you work within that, which as a freelancer, you have every opportunity in the world to do, rather than like trying to get yourself to work during 9 to 5 or times that just don't suit you, that can go a long way towards helping you be more productive. Breaking tasks into small steps rather than getting overwhelmed with big tasks that seem to have no end. If you break it into small steps, that can help you be more productive. Creating a designated workspace, like I talked about earlier, is a science-backed way of being more productive. Minimize multitasking. I know we all multitask. I personally love to multitask, but it's not the most efficient and productive thing to do, because when you're doing this and doing that, you're not getting the first thing done. If you're doing like a dozen other things at the same time. Minimizing alerts, like on your phone. I always have my phone when I'm working on complete silent. I don't even have it on vibrate because I don't want to be interrupted. So, and also getting enough sleep is very important, because without enough sleep, you can end up being exhausted and not being able to think or function clearly. So all of these things are ways that scientists have found that we can be more productive in our lives. Also, there's some science-backed ways too. There's actually a science-backed way that I just love to improve focus. And this has been written about by the neuropsychologist Kim Wilmot in a publication by Harvard University. So sit down to read anything for like 30 minutes. And at the same time, before you do that, set an alarm to go off every 5 minutes. And then when the alarm goes off every 5 minutes as you're reading, ask yourself, whether your mind has been wandering from the reading or whether you're focusing. If your mind has wandered, then just kind of force yourself to refocus on what you're reading. So this is in a scientifically proven method to help us focus better. So I came up with some 8 statements to help you assess whether your work-life balance is good or not so good. And you can look at these and rate each statement on a scale of 1 to 10 to give you an idea whether you've got the optimal work-life balance or not currently. So the first statement is, I'm earning enough money, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the least and 10 being the most. How do you feel about that? I do my best with my work, on a scale of 1 to 10. How true is that for you? My clients seem happy with my work. I accomplish all my non-work responsibilities and tasks. I'm happy with the amount of time I have. The 6th question is, or the 6th statement is, I'm happy with the amount of time I spend with my friends and family. The 7th statement is, I take good care of my health. And the 8th is, I'm happy and satisfied with my life. So on a scale of 1 to 10, again, with 1 being the least and 10 being the most, how do you rate yourself on each of those? And if you don't rate yourself so well on certain ones now you know of certain things you can focus on to try to improve your work-life balance overall. The benefits of a healthy work-life balance are, you will be happier, your work quality will certainly improve, you'll better be able to enjoy your life, and you might even be able to earn more money. So having a healthy work-life balance is something we should all try to have not only for ourselves, for our clients. And importantly, what I want to conclude by saying is that as a freelancer, again, you just have an opportunity that other people just simply don't have. Other people, they have to work as much as their boss tells them. They have to work as much as the company makes them work. But as a freelancer, you don't like have to build your life around your work. You can build your work around your life. And that will give you the optimal work-life balance. So thank you so much for listening. I'll look at your questions now.
Thank you so much, Sabina.
Thank you, Ella.
I feel like I learned a lot from that, and I would love to share some of the questions that came up in the chat.
Yeah,
and some of the
absolutely.
discussions we had. So I think one of the last questions that came up, and maybe it's something that you can touch on first, is when you were describing the focus exercise. Athena asked whether this is something like the Pomodoro method. And I think that the Pomodoro method is something different, but maybe you can explain a little bit more about that.
I have heard of that method. I've read about that quite a while back, but I'm actually not that familiar with that method. If you can tell me about that, was not mentioned in this article that I read about this method that I shared. Can you explain the Pomodoro?
For sure. Yeah. So I think the exercise that you shared is a way to kind of reflect on and it's like an exercise that helps you stretch your focus. Pomodoro is a method for working where you set a timer. And so people use different lengths of time, but it's kind of quite common to use a 30-minute timer and set it for like 25 minutes, the alarm to go off after 25 minutes of work, and then have a 5-minute break. And the purpose of that is very similar to what you're talking about, right? It's the idea that if you do lose focus, you're only losing it for a fixed period of time. But also that we tend to work better in bursts. And I don't know whether you can speak to that, whether that's something that you're familiar with in your own experience.
I think this technique that I shared, this was not something to do while you're working, but something to do outside of work, an exercise that you can do while you're just, reading the internet or reading a book or something to help you develop the focus that you can then use in your work, rather than the Pomodoro method is something that you use while you're working to help you, like you said, focus better and work in short bursts. So this is where that differs from that. So yeah, but like, taking breaks also every 25 minutes or so. I personally try to take a break like every hour or less than an hour, because it just clears your head so much, and that definitely helps you focus better. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there's also the 20-20-20 guidelines for vision, where if you're looking at a screen, then every 20 minutes you should take, for 20 seconds, you should look at something that's 20 feet away.
Yes.
So that's another reason to have some kind of awareness of the time that's passing is, as you said, sitting is the new smoking, and also the impact of just sitting at a desk on our eyesight as well. Lisa actually gave some advice this time. Lisa said that they try to take a walk daily to get their mind more focused on what's important in life.
Oh, Lisa, I know Lisa. Yes. Lisa Sicard. I actually thought of mentioning you during this, Lisa, because I know you do that. And I think that's such an excellent idea. I love that idea. I usually will, like in the morning, exercise outside, but I think taking a break in the middle of the day to exercise outside is just brilliant. That absolutely can put you in a completely different frame of mind and just give you more energy and everything. I think it's a brilliant idea. I might start doing that myself.
Yeah, I loved that advice as well. And I think it's something that it's quite like low lift for most of us to put into action as well. Like it doesn't require us to take out a gym membership or to buy any specialist equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lisa also shared some really great insights. What if your client pushes way back on an increase? So it was like a question, but then Lisa also offered an answer to that question, which is find a new client.
Okay.
But do you have any other advice for somebody who is trying to increase their rates and their client pushes back on that, besides Lisa's advice to find a new client?
To find a new client. Yeah. I hate to say it, it depends kind of, especially, well, it depends on how much you need the work. especially when you're first starting out and you may not have that many clients. This is something you may just feel like you're going to have to do. It's not a good thing, but definitely push back yourself and stand your ground. And if you lose that client, or if you don't get any work from them initially, then you search for another client and work for your own rates. Don't undercut yourself. I understand the temptation, especially at the beginning when you're starting out, but stand your ground and you know what you're worth. And if you have to cut that client loose, then you have to, because ultimately in the long run, if you're working for too little money, you're going to have to work more in order to make enough money. So if you stick to your guns and work for people who will pay you what you're worth, then that's ultimately the right thing to do. It may be difficult, but that's going to work out better in the long run for sure.
Hopefully, eh? And I think that this kind of, it follows into Maya's point, which was that a lot of the points are equally important for people in regular fixed employment with companies. Like maybe fixed employees don't have as much freedom to, just find a new client or to
exactly
set their hours. But a lot of the work, the ideas about boundaries, and a lot of your suggestions on finding that balance, that has application for sure.
Yeah.
For fixed employees. Athena had another question. What if your client is ghosting you? So this maybe isn't directly work-life balance, but it's definitely a freelancer problem.
Yeah, that would be a big problem, especially if it's time to pay you and they ghost you. Fortunately, you should hopefully have several different ways you can contact your client. Hopefully you even have a phone that you can call them on. I don't think I've ever had that problem personally. If you're in the same country, if it gets very serious and they're just not paying you for the work you deserve, if you're in the same country, there should hopefully be some legal remedy that you can find to get them to pay. Searching for them on different channels like, Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever, and just kind of keep on going after them and not giving up. And possibly, in the long run, if you absolutely have to, just saying, okay, we'll negotiate. Let's negotiate something. We have to talk. So that can be really difficult, particularly if you're located in different countries. I hope that hasn't happened to you. And that's a hard one.
Athena, would you like to come off mute and speak directly to Sabina here? We can totally just allow you to speak because I think you have like quite a specific situation that's an interesting one to discuss. What do you think if I do this? No pressure. If you don't want to, you can just say. I just see that you're like sharing some context in the chat.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello, Athena.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you.
So I'm a content creator, for a psychologist, and when I'm waiting for my client's approval of the content, they seem to respond late, like 8 days later or a week later, and this happens every time.
Have you told them that you really need their response earlier than that, so you're not left hanging?
A million times I've told them, a million times.
And they just won't listen to you.
They do it like for the next couple months, and then they start again the same.
Is it written? Do you have a contract with them?
No, I don't.
Maybe you should write up a contract and specifying the exact work you do for them and the exact period of time. And then in that contract, you can say, I expect all approvals to be made within, 48 hours or 5 days or something, so that will be in the contract and they'll then feel more inspired to adhere to it.
Okay.
You think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
And if anybody else has any questions that you'd like to ask directly to Sabina off mute without having to mediate it through the chat, you are so welcome to do that. I'm actually just going to allow everybody to talk. And so if anybody wants to come off mute, you can, but again, it's purely optional. I think Lisa also added a response to your advice, Sabina, about not undercutting yourself and remembering that, you know, working more for less is not good. So.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It can be tempting if, you know, you really have to pay the bills, but that's just, I mean, that could really be a slippery slope. And if you start doing that, you say, well, it worked this time, and now this client expects me to do this, and now this client has told someone else, and now this person has contacted me, and now they expect me to work for this lesser rate. I mean, that could really go downhill. So just like, don't let it get that far, you know, just like, this is my rate and I'm sticking to it, and that's all there is to it. You may have to work hard, a little bit harder to find clients to pay for that rate, but in the long run, it will definitely be worth it.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Oh, hi, Lisa. Thank you. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. I had one particular client I've worked with a long time and no contract, and I wanted to up their rate, but they said that was the highest they could give. And I said, well, it was
No.
for sponsored content. And I said, the only way I'll accept it if it's really great content. Otherwise, I'm not taking anything. It's got to be, you know,
Right.
really, really good for me to do that.
I know that's hard because, you know, sometimes, you know, they're just really stubborn. No, this is all I can pay. This is it. You hate to let the whole thing go up in smoke because it's below your rate. But it's just, I think sticking to your guns in the long run and charging what you're worth is you just end up happier and better off for that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, yeah. Thanks for
Lisa,
attending, Lisa.
Lisa, in your situation, I don't know if it's possible, but I've also had success when a client has told me that that's the maximum they can pay is to agree to actually deliver less work for the same rate. So, okay, your budget doesn't allow you to pay me more. That's cool, but like I need to make this much for the work that I'm doing. So in that case,
explain that.
you can pay me the same, but the scope of the work is going to be less. Is that a possibility for you?
That sounds like
because
a good idea.
I can take the content that they give me and put it into something I've already done, kind of just add it, long as it makes 100% relevant sense, because I don't want to, you know, update content that's not good. So I could do that. So instead of having to create a whole new post, I can update one with what they're looking for. And that would save me time and still make a little money.
Mhm.
And keep them happy. You know, that's the big thing, because they do give me so much work.
Yeah,
I
right.
hate to,
Yeah. Mhm, mhm.
but I'm starting to get other work that's paying double. So
Okay.
there's gonna come a
Same.
point where I'm gonna have to ditch the lower one.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful, actually. That sounds pretty
Yeah.
ideal.
It's
Double.
just scary because you don't know how long the higher rate, like how often they'll come back to you. It's, you know.
Right. Yeah. It could be a tricky balance. Definitely a tricky balance because you have to earn as much as you have to earn. But also,
Right,
if you're
right.
working it for this rate for one client and a much higher rate for another, and if they ever like somehow find out, that's, you know, that's not good either. It's tricky being a freelancer, but it's, you know, it gives you the opportunity to, you know, use your mind and your creativity to think of ways to, you know, make things work for yourself financially.
Right. The ones that have the lower rate, though, they do a ton of more work with me, both on either whether if it's a sponsored situation or whether it's managing
Yeah.
social media.
Mhm.
Like I have one client that referred so many people to me that I keep his rate lower than anyone else, just because he
Yeah.
refers so much work and he's consistent every month where the others just come and go.
Yeah.
So that's how I justify it.
Hmm.
If I ever asked, you know, I mean.
Yeah. If that works for you, if you're earning enough money and you're happy with it. Yeah, I think that's, if that works for you, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes these lower rate clients are also multipliers, right? So it's not just necessarily like that fixed dollar amount that you receive from them, but it is the multiplier of the work that they bring you. So
Right. If they're providing
retail,
you
if you
with
have-
enough work and you're earning enough and you're happy with it, then I mean, that's, you may want to earn more and you can raise your rates hopefully in the future. But if this is working for you now, that sounds good.
It's sort of like retail, you know, when they sell something for a low price, they make it up in volume.
Right.
But we're not a conglomerate where one person, or I
Exactly,
have a couple people that
exactly.
work for me, but I still gotta pay them, so.
Right. I
yeah.
know. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's not like we're a huge company where you can output, you know, a lot more for a lot less money and it all works out somehow. You know, if you can make it work out for yourself where you're not working too many hours and you're making enough money, then that's great. But you definitely don't want to be like doing bulk work for low pay. That's yeah. I've had to do that before, and that's definitely it's not a good feeling. So, you know, try to get out of that if you can, if it's not working for you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have to look that over, look at my budgets again and kind of
Yeah.
go through
Yeah.
the whole process and say, what am I doing? Is this really
Mhm.
working well or not? Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Lisa.
Sounds like there's another webinar in there, Sabina.
Oh, yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. So if anybody else doesn't want to come off mute or drop any questions in the chat or in the Q&A, we can start to wrap things up. I think that personally speaking, this has been super interesting for me. I've definitely picked up, as I said in the chat, I was hoping to get some tips and tricks for how to like bring my work-life balance back into balance when like it's a little, I find it easier to notice that things are going off course than I find to course correct. So I definitely made a bunch of notes that I found super helpful from this presentation
Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
to apply to my own work.
I'm happy to hear that.
So thank you so much, Sabina, for joining us for this
Thank you,
conversation.
Ella.
And thank you to everybody else who has joined and has contributed your
Yeah,
conversation.
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's been so great, and I've learned so much from all of you. So thank you very much.
I really deeply appreciate you inviting me to do this webinar, and I just really appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate Lisa and Athena and everyone who showed up today. Thank you so much.
100%. Thank you again. And the recording will be sent out to everybody who registered. Sabina, did you want to share your contacts for any kind of socials or LinkedIn?
Good idea. My website is worldoffreelancers.com. I'm also on Twitter at WO Freelancers. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Sabina Lohr, which you can see there in the box how to spell it. And that's basically all my social right there. Yes.
Perfect. And we'll send those out as well with the recording and all of the additional details that Sabina has to share. And we thank you again for joining us. Have a great day, everyone, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon for you. Have a great rest of your day. And
thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ella.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.